Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that it overall improves our financial success. This episode's about simultaneous settlement, or people wanting to move from one house to the other or from one property to another, and the problem being, obviously, once they sell their property, they won't have anywhere to live unless they rent or move in with parents or friends or family or anything like that. So what they often try and do is sell their property, have the settlement date in accordance to the new purchase property settlement date, and then obviously move in what they often call simultaneous settlement in the industry. So quite often the first approach is to achieve a bridging loan or a bridging finance, which is quite common. Sometimes or most times lenders that are providing bridging loan are quite a little bit more expensive in the process. So they basically say, well, in the time, a bridging loan will enable you to get an approval as in a pre-approval to buy a new property, and then be able to, once you do sign the contract, you can have the two mortgages for a set period of time, generally 6 months. Some lenders do a little bit longer, some shorter. There are a lot of lenders there that are more generous than others. Obviously, speak to your broker about that, or the banks. Now, most of the time in these instances, what happens is sometimes if people don't go for their pre-approval because the finance is the boring part of it, and people just like looking for properties and not going through the rigmarole and sort of leaving it at the 11th hour, or have been driving past an auction at the time and saw the property for sale and just bought it without even thinking that they will be able to sell theirs quite easily and then go for the finance. I'd always make the point of, or with all my clients, is to make sure that you get a pre-approval, whether it be bridging loan or any sort of loan, before you go buying any property without even knowing that you can sell yours, right? So, and it's also in accordance to the finance. Even if it means that you've had a pre-approval sitting around for 6 to 8 months or even 3 months, I would always make the assumption to actually go speak with your broker and make sure that all your due diligence, your DD, has been done and everything is in accordance to no figures have changed, or no kids have come along, or your job has changed. You really got to make sure that your pre-approval is watertight with all the information and there are no changes on that pre-approval that you've got to be honest with both the bank and the broker, right? So always make sure that you do your due diligence with that. Now, that being said, bridging finance is a great way to sort of get across. Sometimes people do apply for bridging finance and they get a result which they're not really happy with, simply because criteria with bridging finance is a little bit tougher, simply because the bank is taking on more risk with the one client, and they're making the assumption that you will be selling your property and so on and so forth. So there's a bit more documentation, but that being said, it's not something to fear. It just means that, like any finance application, you want to make sure that all the information is very, very, very accurate, and you are fully aware of what's going on. Now, unfortunately, in the finance industry, Most of the time, a lot of clients find that they can't really do bridging finance for whatever reason it may be, or the institution or lenders that provide bridging finance sometimes can come back and say they're not going to be doing it or they can no longer fund it, which sort of breaks a lot of people's dreams and therefore they're going back to square one with their finance application. Becomes very frustrating and so on and so forth. Well, finance in a lot of instances, depending on the person that you're dealing with in the finance industry, can be very frustrating, right? And the banks, of course. So make sure that you do provide all the information that is very, very accurate. Now, bridging finance is something that I do say that with most institutions, make sure that you get a few options. Just don't go for the one. Like I said, you are carrying two securities under your name for a short period of time. Even though it's a short period of time, I would often make sure that the information is accurate and you being the best judge of yourselves, making sure that there won't be any changes in the near future whilst this is all occurring, as in the transactions and the buying and the selling and all that sort of stuff of your property and properties. So bridging finance can be a solution. The other way is obviously simultaneous settlement, where your broker or the bank will just say, look, here's a pre-approval for X amount for your new purchase. You actually go ahead and you buy, and then obviously you line up your sale of your property and the date falls on the same date or thereabouts. Sometimes what can happen if there's an issue, so you've got to be really mindful with simultaneous settlement. You've got to be mindful that the people buying your property is, fully formally approved without any conditions, and make sure that goes through. There's no clauses or untoward stuff. Once again, get your broker or the bank to check, and your solicitor also, or conveyancer, to check your contract of sale, and depending on what state, all the paperwork relevant to the sale. Make sure that's all in accordance, and make sure that, because quite often, sometimes what can happen is the people buying your property may not be able to afford it. And if you can't make the sale or sell your property, you can't complete the purchase of yours. And it creates a bit of a domino effect, unfortunately, where people start getting really irate and default rates start occurring, and it can cost a lot of money, especially if it's in the commercial space. So if it's a commercial property, default rates can be very, very tough, really aggressive, and it's not the place you want to do so be at that time. So you want to make sure that you've got all your information and all your ducks in a row when it comes to simultaneous settlement. The other problems that can occur with simultaneous settlement is not only that people buying your property or anything like that. Let's say, for instance, the people that you're buying the property off can't move, or for whatever, and they can't make the transaction, or they can sometimes dig their heels in the ground. You can't actually move in, but you've got to move out of your house. Then you can do quite a few things to try and attempt to move in, but obviously you want to have your solicitors and conveyancers all over this information, accountants, brokers, you name it, have your whole team on board when it comes to this type of stuff. Because it can throw your family out, right? Especially if it's a family home, create a lot of problems and a lot of arguments and just anxiety that you just don't need, right? So what I would often suggest in these instances is probably speak to your broker, have an accurate indication about what is actually going on with your predicament. Quite often, it sounds quite easy. You want to buy something and you want to sell something, but every time, things may be different. As in circumstances, every client is different, even though generally their specific needs are the same. A good broker will always be able to provide you with a few different solutions to be able to make sure that you get it done properly. And also make sure that everything is in accordance with the solicitor or the conveyancer that you're using, and they're all over the whole transaction, as in timing as well, because they're the ones that are actually got to transfer some of the money as in deposits, and there's a lot of information as in titles and stuff like that that have to go across. Now, disaster stories that I can tell you when it comes to just normal people going to buy something and sell their property. Sometimes what happens is they actually buy something without actually selling theirs, or something on the contract when they are selling theirs is incorrect, and it forfeits the contract of sale, meaning that they actually don't end up having a proper contract or signed unconditional contract for their property. And that actually means that all of a sudden now the sale doesn't go through of their property. They've actually purchased another property without any conditions, and automatically they're in sort of panic mode because they may have put 60 days or 30 days, 45 days, 90 days, whatever it might be, to settle their newly bought property, and they need to sell theirs in a hurry. In these instances, it's best to react quick. Get your broker. If your broker is somewhat sits on their hands a bit and takes a lot of time, get out there and find someone that is. There's quite often some brokers that are really good at this, as in what they do is they tend to line everything up. They get the information. They speak with real estate agents. Quite often I've always managed to be able to coordinate the sale by emphasizing a few different or important points of the sale with the selling agent. Encourage a selling agent. Get the information off the selling agent. There are also lenders out there specifically that are designed for this type of loan. So, for instance, a lot of the time, if this occurs, there are some lenders that we use that are able to sort of do both. So don't stress too much. If you do find yourself that you need to get in touch with a broker quick, or need this service done real quick because all of a sudden you're going to have two loans on your hands and money's going to run out pretty quick with two mortgages, you definitely want to speak to someone. I'm always happy to help and get this moving forward and speak to the appropriate banks, etc. So don't stress too much about that, but I wouldn't say be sort of complacent about it. I would always get onto it straight away. Now, with the simultaneous settlement, or when you're buying and selling and moving, the other thing that's connected with this is a bit of anxiety. Quite often I find with my clients that, both in a couple scenario, they both want to move. One may be a little bit stressed because of the whole procedure, where the other one is a little bit laid back. This is common, guys, so don't think that it's, you're out of whack if that's you that I'm speaking, or generally saying that, one's got better points of anxiety than the other. They're really not feeling the pinch, whereas the other person is feeling the pinch, and you forever needed consolidating, calming down. That's normal. It is a highly stressful point for a lot of people when it comes to buying and selling property. A lot of people don't like going through it with the finance. But that being said, like I said, if you've got a good team around you, the process should be pretty somewhat seamless, right? I mean, that's why you hire professionals. It's to make sure that they do a good job, and always make sure before you go buying anything or venturing into another loan or refinancing, making sure that the team that you use are pretty onto it and able to help at any instant, especially when you're looking and passing over a considerable amount of money. Which leads me to the last point of this episode, which is pretty much dealing with the anxiety of all this. Don't think that you're the only one. It is a highly anxious place to be, but it is not without with the right help. It's not going to be a massive problem if you make sure that you get everything, all your ducks in a row, so to speak, right? So make sure that you've got your pre-approval ready. Make sure that everything makes sense to you. Just don't assume that the bank or the broker have sort of done their due diligence for you. Always check the figures, ask to relay all the information, double check, triple check. I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure your conveyancer, your solicitors are all over it, settlement dates, all that type of stuff. Make sure that the bridging loan is in accordance to what you actually know and can afford. Affordability is so important, guys. Life is just becoming more expensive than ever, and make sure the affordability is done in accordance to your living standards, not the banks, not the brokers. Always make sure that it's in accordance to your affordability, right? And then once that's all been ticked off and you're pretty much ready to go, always have your contingency costs such as moving costs, agent fees, all that sort of stuff. Make sure that they're being placed in the whole feasibility that of the buying and selling. Also, when it comes to selling your place, don't assume that yours is always the best in the street or the worst in the street, or you should be expecting a price like this. Quite often, too many people, what they do is they say that their property is worth a lot more, when in actual fact, the reality of the whole scenario is that you could be selling for a lot less than expected. I've seen that. When I say a lot less, could be marginally less, but every dollar counts in these instances, and you want to make sure that your agent, your broker, all the research has been done. What I tend to do with these scenarios is always pressure test them at a worst case scenario. So all my clients know me best by always placing a worst case scenario approach to that. And what that means is, in the worst case scenario that you sell your property for less, this is the amount that we can borrow, and this is the amount that we should be proceeding with. Nothing worse than having a shortfall when it comes to settlement and not being able to settle on a property. Thus, again, default rates start hitting, right? So definitely want to get all your ducks in a row that way with affordability. And lastly, the anxiety part of it is always lessen the anxiety by having more information than less, and having your conveyancer or solicitors, your brokers, your banks, everyone all on the same page and ready to work for you. You are engaging on their services, so don't feel as though you should be doing more work or not bothering them and sharing the whole experience with them. They are there to help you, and they should be there to help you. And make sure that all your figures are done, and all the best with it. I hope this episode, it is a short one, but I hope it does answer a few points that you could be worried about when it comes to simultaneous settlement or buying and selling all at the same time. Let me know if there is anything else that I've missed or you'd want to hear about, and see you on the next episode.